Hi, I just finished the most amazing podcast with therapist and coach Trey Love, who went through some breath work. Like, how do we process anxiety and emotions and stress and trauma? There are so many things that we have to navigate in life that cause an enormous amount of stress, and especially when an addictive substance is involved. Um, that we're using some behavior or substance to solve for pain and suffering that we don't know how to process. And Tori gave me, we went through three different types of breath work that all deal with a different narrative about how to work through problems or how to get your brain focused on a challenging situation and redirect it from fight or flight to solving the problem. So I invite you to listen in to the latest podcast on Say Goodbye and Imagine, where we are talking about healing breathwork.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I am here today with a very special guest. His name is Troy Love, and he's in LCSW. He's an experienced therapist. I know this firsthand because he used to be mine. And he's also an author, speaker, specializing in trauma recovery, attachment wounds, and personal development. He's the creator of the Finding Peace framework, designed to help individuals heal from trauma and navigate really complex emotional challenges. With a deep passion for guiding people towards self discovery and empowerment, Troy provides valuable insights through his books, workshops, and online programs. He's the founder of Finding Peace Consulting, and he offers coaching, training, and therapy to help individuals find greater peace and authenticity in their lives. Oh my gosh. Troy, I just want to tell you that I read a lot of bios and people can say a lot of things, but in terms of your bio, it's so accurate to what you
Oh,
do
thank you.
and the work you do. And I will also share that I was a participant in his first Finding Peace retreat.
Yeah.
I want to be invited back sometime as a special guest.
Oh, that'd
But
be great.
anyway, it was very healing. I had a lot of breakthroughs both in therapy and at that retreat. And I'm just really grateful for the work you do. And so the reason you are here today, we're going to talk about healing breath work because I know based on my own walk, not necessarily with you, but in other areas of my life where I've kind of learned how to deal with stresses and challenges, that breath work is so important. It calms the central nervous system, right? And people don't understand how to do it. And I heard you sent an email out about breath work, and I'm like, come on in, Troy. We all want to know about how you guide people through breath work. So welcome. And
Thank you.
so what do you want to tell us about breath work other than the general knowledge that I just shared with people? What's important to know about breath work and how do you use it?
So I guess it's important to understand a little bit about trauma and what happens in our body first, and then why breath work can be so helpful with that.
Amen.
You know, the work that I do, and I call it attachment wounds, but you can call it whatever you want. But we go through life and we experience things that are painful. We experience things that are traumatic. And for the rest of the mammals in the animal kingdom, when they have a traumatic experience, they handle it very differently than us humans. So, for example, if there's a gazelle and it's running through the prairie and the lion chases after it and it goes into the fight or flight response and it runs off and it bolts away, but the lion catches it, it immediately goes into this like shut down mode where it like shallow breathing, almost as if it was dead. And if the lion doesn't kill it, the lion gets bored, it will like distract itself. And then as the lion kind of maybe is doing something else, the gazelle will change its breathing pattern, will shake itself off, get up, like do this weird body thing with its body, and then it will run off. And that's the end. And it doesn't have PTSD because it was chased by a lion. It's just like, I'm moving forward. But for us humans, what tends to happen is that we experience these traumatic events in our lives and then we don't shake it off, as it were. We don't release it. And so what we do instead is hold it inside our bodies, and then it gets trapped there. And there's a lot of different books that talk about that. The body keeps the score and other things like that. So the trauma gets trapped in our body in different areas of our body. And then as we go through the day, things will happen that will bump up against those trauma points, those attachment wounds. And then our body will go into fight or flight response. And we usually have these trauma responses. So that's typically what happens with us. But when we use breath work, what we're really doing is tapping into those places where we've stored that trauma in our body and letting our breath release it, letting our body release it. It's a trauma work that we do. That's very similar to some of the other ways that therapists help people work through trauma. The difference with breath work is that our body is communicating to us without words. So when you go to a therapist, we talk. Like we talk about our feelings, we talk about what happened, all that stuff. With breath work, there isn't any words. There isn't any words. But what is happening is our body is telling us things. And if we're paying attention to it, we can hone in on different parts of our body. We can move our body the way that we need to. And as we're doing that, we're releasing that trauma and it's gone. It's gone. And then we don't have that anymore.
Interesting. Yeah, my understanding of it, and I see it a lot, right, with what I do, because we use substances to try and medicate ourselves so that we don't have to feel that pain and that suffering or that response, and we numb the response. But what I've learned, and I'm sure you know this as a therapist, that there's a big T trauma, there's little T trauma. I know people whose whole lives have shifted by one statement made to them as a child that they interpreted one way.
Right.
And they cannot get rid of the narrative they developed for that. And so my understanding of it is your body. So now you develop some synapses and neural pathways. And because this story is truth to you, regardless of not being truth, your body says, warning, 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 danger.
Exactly.
And you react, right? And
Exactly.
that's what I try and do. Of course, I have the biblical approach, and 2 Corinthians 10:5, capture your thoughts and make them obedient to Christ. And
Yeah.
so it's developing this awareness of the thought that's toxic or causing you distress and capturing it and doing something with it. So what we're talking, first we got to capture it and know what's happening, right? Do you work with that? I assume.
Absolutely.
How do you help people capture their thoughts?
Well, with the work that I do, and we look at the attachment wounds, loss, neglect, rejection, abandonment, betrayal, and abuse. I tell people it's not the wound that's causing you distress, it's what you've come to believe about yourself as a result. So when that rejection wound, for example, is being hit, what is the automatic core belief that you have about yourself? I'm bad, I'm flawed, there's something wrong with me, I don't belong here. If it's a betrayal wound, what's the automatic core belief? I can't trust anybody. I have to do this all by myself. So identifying what the wound is will help you identify what the automatic core belief is. And then we can start to control that, right? We can take a look at it from different perspectives. Well, is that absolutely true? Would I ever say that to a friend of mine? What would happen if I didn't believe that anymore? What would I happen if that went away? All that kind of stuff, which is what we do in coaching and therapy and those kind of things. Breathwork focuses on the pain itself, the pain of rejection before the core belief starts to percolate, before we start to make interpretations about that rejection. It focuses on the physical sensations of that pain and breathing into that.
Yeah, and that's what I've learned. I haven't learned it enough to teach it like you do, which is why I'm super excited to go through this with you. But again, one of the things I learned is whatever you resist persists. And because a lot of us just fight it, talk to it, negotiate. Like, okay, remember, I'm dealing with addiction.
Right.
So it's like fighting, negotiating, justifying, talking to it. I'm like, no.
Right.
And all that is arguing with it. And I think you eventually lose the battle when you
Well,
engage.
you're not going to win. It's so, if we're looking at it from a Christian perspective, the evil one has been doing this for thousands of years and knows how to manipulate you, right? And you won't win if you continue to engage in the battle. So, like Jesus's example of get behind me, Satan, right? I'm not going to engage in a conversation with you. I'm just dead.
Amen. Yeah, I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, so I am prepared to find out about how you teach people breath work.
So if you Google breath work, you'll find out that there's lots of different modalities of breath work. And so the main definition is just using your breath to work through stuff. But there's different modalities, there's different people who do it different ways. So it really kind of depends on your perspective. I use a breath work that focuses on body movement and sound and breathing and those kind of things. But there's others that do it differently. But one of the things that we can do first and foremost is just practice learning how to breathe, which sounds funny because, we've been breathing since the day we were born, but a lot of us don't breathe correctly.
Absolutely.
So if you want to practice with me, so depending on whether you're sitting or standing, it doesn't matter. I usually have people lie on the ground first when I'm teaching them how to do this because it
relaxing.
Yeah. Well, it forces their diaphragm to work the way it's supposed to, because most of us don't do that. But if you're standing or sitting, what you do is you put your middle fingers on your stomach, right in the middle of your belly button and your sternum. So it's just barely touching. And then you're going to breathe in through your nose and you're going to breathe out through your mouth. And if you're doing it right, you'll notice that your stomach feels like it's a balloon. And if you breathe in, it's going to pull those fingers apart just by like a millimeter or two. And then when you breathe out through your mouth, those fingers come back together. So I'll have people try that. So if you wanted to try that,
I'm trying it right now.
Mm-hmm. And what are you noticing?
Yeah, I never did that, but right on my belly button, at first I was trying to hold the fingers together on it, but when I relaxed my fingers and put them gently, like you say, gently,
mm-hmm.
and I'm sitting up.
Yeah.
And when I let it go, my fingers touch again. So is that more pronounced when we're on our back?
Well, when you're on your back, it forces the muscle that's doing all of that is called the diaphragm, which sits at the bottom of your lungs. And it only has one job, which is to pull air into your lungs and then to push it back out. That's all that it does. For most of us, unless you're an athlete or a singer or a musician, we don't develop that muscle very well. So when you have somebody lay on their back, flat on their back, it forces their diaphragm to just do its job, and you can feel what that feels like. What I notice is a lot of times when people are standing up, they breathe from up here in the top part, their shoulders go up, and it's really tense, and they're putting their fingers between their sternum and their belly button, and the fingers aren't moving. That's because they're not using their diaphragm. So the first thing we need them to understand is we got to use your diaphragm. To use that muscle, its only job is to pull air into your body. So we breathe it in and then exhale. Breathing in and then exhale.
Now, I hear so many people go counting 4, 7, 8, 4, 3, 2. Like, is there anything to the counting? Is there any?
That's called tactical breathing. And it is used a lot in law enforcement. It's used in a lot like war kind of scenarios where it helps somebody get grounded. So I'll walk you through what that looks like. And that is a form of breath work. It is a form of regulating your body. The traditional form of it is 4 counts in, hold for 4 counts out, hold for 4 counts, and then just repeating it. Sometimes people will do 4, 4, 4, 8, where they're breathing out for 8 seconds or 8 counts. So you kind of play with it a little bit, but let's try it and see how that works. So you're going to breathe in, and I'll count for you.
Okay.
You're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. So the whole 4 counts, you're going to be breathing in. One thing about that is, so it's not just your diaphragm, but we also have the top of our lungs to fill up too. So it's kind of like thinking about a water balloon. If you've ever hooked up a balloon to the faucet, you know how that just gets really heavy, but as it keeps filling up, it fills up on the top. So we're going to fill up the bottom of our lungs, and then we're going to notice that our top expands too. And then we're going to hold that for 4 seconds, and then we're going to release it through your mouth, breathing out like a straw.
Okay.
For 4 seconds, and then breathe and holding, and then breathing in through your nose and out your mouth. So we're going to do it for probably about 6 or 7 times. So for me, so here we go. So breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe in, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, breathe out, 2, 3, 4, hold, 2, 3, 4, and then relax.
Boy, that was really intentional. I like that.
Yeah, tell me what you noticed.
I noticed it was more disciplined than I'm accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
And I did notice that extra filling at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it felt refreshing. I mean, I'm not stressed out, right now. So, but it felt super refreshing. And I'm wondering what you're doing with the mind through that. I was focused on you, right? And I had you as a guide.
Right.
But the reality is, if we're doing this on our own and we're in a state of fight or flight or freeze
Mm-hmm.
or something, we're by ourselves. What are we doing with our mind? when we're going through that.
Yeah. So this is not intended to be a relaxation breath. This is intended to be like a focused, grounded breath. And so the reason why we call it Foursquare is if you're doing this on your own, as you're breathing in, you're just breathing in along 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold 2, 3, 4, and I'm moving my finger down and then moving it back to the right, 2, 3, 4, hold 2, 3, 4. So I'm basically drawing a square in the air with my hand right now, but that's what you're doing with your breath. So you're focusing on just kind of imagining this line going across and then down and then back across and then up. And that visualization, and along with the counting in your head, is giving your prefrontal cortex something to do. Because oftentimes when we are in trauma, our prefrontal cortex goes offline. All the blood that we need for fight or flight goes to our lungs, our heart, our quads, our biceps. And so all that blood that we're really needing to get out of there moves from probably the place that we need it the most during those times, which is the prefrontal cortex, where we make the executive decisions and things like that. So giving our brain a job to do, counting 1, 2, 3, 4, visualizing the square gives our prefrontal cortex something to do, which then brings that blood back into the prefrontal cortex. Then we're able to make a better, more grounded decision. It's not intended to help me like be zen and relax. It's to bring me back to present.
So in my world, capture your thoughts. It is recognizing the trigger, doing the breath work to get back clarity, and choosing a path forward. I love that.
Yeah.
Is it ever used to calm? I mean,
Of course. Yeah.
is there a different breath work? Or
Yeah. So another version of breathing. So one of the important kind of cool things that our body does when we're breathing from our diaphragm is it sends a signal to our amygdala, which is the panic center of our brain, that we're not having an emergency, so it can stop pushing the panic button. When we start breathing from our diaphragm, it's sending a signal that we're safe, right? So we can use this when we have already started to feel panicky and overwhelmed, when those thoughts are really bombarding us all the way. We can use that simply. This time we're going to slow the breath down, and we're not going to be counting, but you're just going to be following the breathing. So I'll guide you through that. So I want you to just close your eyes and relax your shoulders and breathe in through your nose and then out through your mouth, and just slowly breathing in. Just making sure that your diaphragm is engaged, moving out and in like that. And you're just going to keep doing that for a little while. And if you have thoughts that come in, just kind of notice that they're like clouds in the sky, and just kind of like when you see a cool cloud, you just notice, oh, there's a cool cloud. And then you just refocus your attention back to breathing in and breathing out. And then if you want to, you could even imagine that the air that you're breathing in has a color, like your favorite color. And then you breathe it in, and you notice that color fills your lungs, kind of moves throughout your body. And then you breathe it out with your out breath, releasing that color back into the world, and just focusing color in, color out. Just following that breath. We call it following the breath. Just noticing it going in and out. So I'll have you do that for about 30 seconds without me talking. What did you
Oh
know?
my gosh, I forgot, Troy. I learned that and I forgot about it in college. And I hate to say that, but that was a long time ago. And I forgot about it. We were learning, and I remember they told us like kind of a green smoke or something and breathing and I used it for a number of years, especially when I couldn't sleep at night. And it was when as you breathe, it was distributing that smoke or vapor, whatever, the colored vapor throughout your body and down to your fingers. So I would always imagine, and with every breath, it would go down my arm and then I'd relax every part of my body. It was incredible. I forgot. Thank you for reminding
Oh,
me.
you're welcome. Yeah,
And so that's definitely got to be the central nervous system.
exactly. So what did you notice was different from that and the county?
Oh, I was so happy. I was so
Mm.
relaxed. I was so, yeah, it was really nice because I haven't done that. I haven't practiced that in decades. So,
Yeah.
yeah. Can I share with you a practice I learned and see where that fits in it?
Yeah, please.
So, with positive intelligence, I learned, and on the not resisting. So, when I guess I learn to tell what my state of mind is by my body not being in balance, right? So let's just say I am stressed about work. All of a sudden, I'll feel that in my chest, right? Versus I've learned where I feel certain things, versus somebody hurt my feelings, and I'll feel that in my stomach.
Mm.
Different places for different things going wrong. But when I do my breath work, I breathe in and out and I just focus my attention on the feeling. So I'm not looking at it, I'm not fighting with it, I'm not negotiating it. I'm just noticing it.
Right.
And now it takes a long time. I mean, like I'm talking about a 12-minute, and I don't have it as much anymore because I've learned how to control it. But when I did, I call it when it gets stuck to the ceiling.
Mm.
And let's just talk about work, right?
Right.
Way overwhelmed, way stressed, stuck to the ceiling, can't focus, can't work. Just throw your hands up in the air. I'm going to the couch and I'm going to breathe.
I love
And
that.
I'm serious. This is like how I solved the problem.
Right.
And that's the kind of breathing I did. I just was looking at the feeling.
Mm.
So, can you talk about what that's about?
Well, that's another form of breath work, right? So you're not trying to put words to it. You're not trying to interpret it. You're just observing the feeling. And almost like with every out breath, you're letting that feeling release a little bit. So it's not as intense. And then the next out breath, it's a little less intense. And then the next out breath. And you're not thinking about what does it mean or that. You're just focusing on the physical sensations that your body's experiencing and noticing the emotion that's coming. So it's a form of mindfulness. It's a mindful meditation, which is also a form of breath work.
And so, when you're dealing with clients, whether they're in counseling or coaching, how do you determine what kind of breath work to use?
So we start with what I've just taught you, because all three of those that we've just talked about are really powerful in and of themselves. Um, the breath work that I do with people in like a breath work session is a lot more intense. So
Hmm.
what happens is we rev up the energy through our breath. So we begin breathing like that. And we'll go for about 5 minutes breathing
Wow.
like that. It's almost like hyperventilating. And when we're doing that, your brain does not have time to be thinking about stuff other than, oh my gosh, this is so hard. But we just keep going. And then as we're revving up that energy, our body is intuitively knowing where to put that energy. Like where is it that we need to focus on today? And so it will go there, and then we'll help them kind of move their body. It's not just like flat on your back the whole time. Like if they need to sit up or they need to stretch or whatever, and they're letting that out. And then, so we've elevated everything, and then we bring it back down. We calm it down, get kind of to a status quo place, sit there for a few minutes, and then we raise it back up. So, what we're teaching the body and the brain is that you can be in a distressing situation and it's going to be okay. And in that process, you're letting go of the traumatic feelings, you're letting go of all that, and you're regulating your nervous system, and you're teaching it that, hey, I'm learning how to help my body go into the autonomic nervous system and being able to just calm down. So we'll do that maybe 4 or 5 cycles, and then we calm down. My microphone thinks I'm waving my hand. We calm down, and then you just let your body integrate whatever it just experienced. And that's about a 10-minute process. Just kind of lying there and just letting things out. So when people do that, they may cry, they may laugh, they may scream, they're going to release emotions one way or another, and that's really intense. But I won't jump somebody there until I've taught them the basics like I just taught you.
I'm curious because, again, in my positive intelligence training, a lot of times he'll incite us to get revved up in a bad way and then experience the release. Are you doing that here?
Exactly. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I love that because people, and that's what I developed, right? It's so important to have body awareness of when you're in distress.
Right.
And this, Troy, this work is so important for what I do because you understand addiction too, right? You're
Yeah.
addiction counselor, more for sexual addictions, right? Yeah. But they're all the same, right? The dopamine system is just gone.
Right.
It's disappeared.
Yeah.
And the reason that you feel like you're in distress is the body's going, warning, 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 needs dopamine,
Exactly.
must engage in this behavior to
Exactly.
be normalized. And so the breath work is so important to calming down the emergency warning system,
Yeah.
and
Well, that's the regulation, right? We're learning it. So when we increase the discomfort for a little while in whatever version we're doing, um, that is activating the fight or flight response. It's really uncomfortable, and then we learn how to bring it back down. And as you're doing that, you're teaching your body, hey, when I'm really being revved up and my emotions are on the ceiling, there's something I can do besides go and grab a fifth of vodka. There's something I could do besides cracking open a beer. Like, I can do something else to manage these emotions that serves me better, helps me show up with the people I care about better.
well, and I think what's so important about this, because what I do is practicing awareness, and I would love to tell you that, oh, it's 100% successful. It isn't, because for
No.
people with trauma, they're dealing with something more physical, uh, where they literally, their body is just reacting and tormenting them. And until they learn mechanisms like this and how to redirect their thoughts and calm their nervous system, they can't even make rational decisions, and that's how I know when somebody needs a higher, I really try and be aware of the level of care that people are needing.
Right.
And I just am so grateful to know you, to have
Thank you.
found you, to have been healed by you.
Oh, I didn't do the healing. A higher
I
power
know.
than me did that, but I help you learn how to connect with that. So
Yeah, but yeah, God definitely used you as a healing tool in my life, and not the typical therapist that just talks to you. You demand action and thought, I suppose. Action is a scary word, but I couldn't just sit there and whine to you. You you threw it back right back at me, and I had to try and figure stuff out. And yeah, I really appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you.
So, Troy, how do you do this work? Like, how can people connect with you if they really maybe need a higher level of care or a breath work session with you? Or what are the methodologies that people can connect with you?
The easiest way is to go to findingpeaceconsulting.com, and I have an email there. You can connect with me that way, and then if you reach out to me, I can point you in the right direction of what we might be able to do to help you.
Well, I surely hope that people take you up on that, because there's a lot of breath work needed in the world. And there are a lot of hurting people. You and I both know that. I think you and I are effective because we are compassionate, because we've been hurt. I remember when you did EMDR on me, and I'm like, whoa, how does that work?
Yeah.
And you're like, you said something, and I don't mean you're very sophisticated, but it's like we don't know. It's like the brain is doing its thing and it's reconnecting, and then you shared with me a story. You're like, you know, I think it was about when you went to school for counseling and were trying to do it yourself. And you go, I realized I had more work to do on me before I could deliver it effectively to other people.
Yeah.
And I do recommend EMDR to a lot of people.
It's another type of trauma work. Yeah.
Yeah. And I tell people to make sure they have a qualified EMDR provider. How do they look for a qualified?
Yeah. So if you go to EMDRIA, it's spelled EMDRIA.org. That's kind of the housing center of all the people who've been certified in EMDR. And you can look there, and I think they have a map or by your zip code or something, and you can find people who've been trained in EMDR in your area who could help you.
And you're also doing Finding Peace retreats, which was like I was your first guinea pig. So I have
we
to
learned so much.
I mean, I have to think that you've kind of graduated into, it was pretty powerful then. So
we've tweaked it a lot. We have a men's only retreat coming up at the end of October.
okay.
So
Still space in that?
Yeah. We have about 5 spaces left. So if you go to findingpeaceconsulting.com and then look at the top for men, you'll be able to find the link for that.
Awesome. Thank you for all the work you do and the light you bring to the world and the peace that you help people find. I really appreciate you, and thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.